This is on page 22. We're gonna continue with elimination, but what we're gonna do is change step 2, where instead of multiplying by -1, you're actually gonna be multiplying by any number or dividing, right? So you have options, but take a look at the asterisk. It says each individual equation can be multiplied by a different number, right? You do everything to one equation does not mean you need to do the same thing to the other equation. The equations are still separate. We're just kind of using them to solve our system. So go ahead and pause the video so that you can take down these notes. Now that you've taken these notes, we're going to start with problem number 1. Now I'm going to put this right next to each other so we have our notes that we need as necessary. Step 1 is to check to see if our equations are in standard form. As you can see, these are in standard form. So what we're going to do is now go to step 2. We notice that none of the terms are opposite each other, right? So that's what we want to do. One of them looks easier than the other to change though. I notice that, hey, my x's are kind of similar. I'm going to multiply this by 2 so that this equation changes to 16x minus 10y equals -22, right? Because now my x's are opposite each other. If you didn't see that and you were like, you know what, I'm gonna make it so my y's are opposite each other, you can multiply the top one by 5 and the bottom one by 4. That is also another option, but I'm going to stick to the other one here. You have options here, and I think that's the trickiest part. The fact that you have options to change whichever one you want to make them opposite each other is what makes it tricky. So that's what we're going to be practicing today. As you'll notice, all the steps are the same for everything else. Right, so I bring the other equation down. I'm on step 3. I cancel it out. This becomes a -6y equals a -42, which then on step 4 I can solve. If I divide both sides by -6, I'm going to get y equals 7. Then I use step 5 to substitute it again, right? I'm practicing these steps again to figure out what my x is. I have my y. Once you do that and you substitute it in, it's going to look like this. You'll now notice that I actually divided by 2 on the left-hand side. Meanwhile, I multiplied 2 by 2 on the other side. Do you see how you have options here to solve? This is what we're practicing. Let's try this again for number 2. For number 2, you're going to notice that, yes, it's set up in standard form, but it's not set up so that they're opposite each other. I'm going to decide to multiply the bottom one by -3, so our y's are opposite each other. So this becomes a -6x plus 6y equals a positive 48. From there, I'm going to bring the other one down so that they're lined up. -5x, -6y equals -4. I'm going to now eliminate. So these become a -11x. Oops. When I distributed, I forgot to make the 6 a positive. They can't cancel out yet. Now it can cancel out. Be careful with those signs. As you can see, I just made the same mistake. So now I find out x is -4. I'm going to go to step 5. I'm going to take one of these equations. It does not matter which one. I'm going to substitute -4 in for the x, just as we've practiced before, so that I'm left with a y variable. And now I can solve it for y, right? So that I get 20, I subtract 20, I get -6y equals -24. Y equals a positive 8. So when I get my answer, here you go. As you notice, you have to multiply by -3 so that when you do this, you're going to get a -4. Oops, I made a mistake here. This should be 4. So you have options here to get x as -4 and y as 4 as well. You're going to continue with this practice on page 22. They are all on 22 set up for you in standard form, but you'll notice on page 23 they're not. You're going to have to rearrange it so that you can put it in standard form, right? You need to take step 1 and put this in standard form. Then from there, you solve it as you choose. Go ahead and continue to practice.